You try to wake up, but you can't. This is what happens if you spent the night scrolling the hub. The same thing happened with Joe. Joe barely gets any joy out of his day-to-day life. Going to classes feels like a drag. His professors sound like background noise, and there is zero excitement sparking in his eyes. Instead, he spent his time mindlessly scrolling TikTok. But here's the crazy part. Even a 15-second reel barely gets a reaction out of him anymore. He tries to study, lasts about 10 minutes, and immediately rewards himself with a 3-hour gaming session or dives straight into the hub. In those moments, he feels like he's flying, but the rest of the time, he feels completely drained, unhappy, and stuck. If you're someone like Joe, trust me, you can fix it for your own good. But first, we need to look under the hood and understand what is actually happening to your brain. First, we gotta understand dopamine. It is basically a hormone released in your brain. Most people call it the feel-good hormone, but biologically, that's a myth. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter responsible for motivation. It is the chemical that drives you to take action. So when does your brain release dopamine? You indulge in any activity that gives you joy or some kind of pleasure, your body releases dopamine. And there is something called as the dopamine baseline. For now, just understand the higher this is, the better you're gonna feel. Your body doesn't release the same amount of dopamine every single time. When you do highly stimulating, unnatural things like binging the hub, endless scrolling, or gaming for hours, your brain pours in massive pool of dopamine all at once. But the human brain hates being out of balance, so to protect itself from that massive flood of chemicals, it actually shuts down some of its dopamine receptors. Remember about the dopamine baseline I mentioned? The second you are done with these activities, your dopamine doesn't just go back to normal. It crashes below your baseline. Suddenly you feel way more bored, sluggish, and unmotivated than you did before. To fill that void and feel normal again, your brain craves an even bigger hit of this cheap dopamine. If you're like Joe, you might have been trapped in this cycle for years without even noticing. It literally drains the color out of your life and makes everyday tasks feel impossible. Then what's the best way to use our dopamine? Like think about reading a good book, crushing a heavy workout, or finally finishing a project you've been putting off. It might not make you feel high in the moment, but it keeps you engaged. And when you're done, you feel a genuine sense of accomplishment. It actually raises your baseline, making you a generally happier and more focused person. If you're like Joe, been doing this for years, it might take a couple of weeks to fully reset. But the crazy part, you will start seeing massive changes in just 48 hours. But I'm not gonna lie to you, those first 48 hours are gonna be absolute hell. It will test your willpower. It comes down to how badly you actually want to level up your life. Most people fail right here, but if you're watching this, I know you've got more fight in you than that. Here's exactly what you need to do. You need a hard reset. Forget what the life gurus say. If you're addicted, moderation doesn't work. You have to cut the bad habits out completely. No TikTok, no hub, no excessive gaming. When you cut these out, your brain is going to throw a tantrum. You will feel miserable. Your brain will scream at you to open Instagram for just 5 minutes. That is your addiction talking. You have to instantly say no and get up. You will have to fight that urge several times a day. But once you break through that 48-hour wall, trust me, you'll feel like a whole new person. The brain fog clears up. Your mind gets sharp. It becomes so much easier to reject cheap dopamine because real life actually starts to feel fun again. Your work improves, your focus returns, and you start actually achieving the things you want in life. I personally did this, and it completely changed my life. Lock in for 48 hours. Prove to yourself that you have control over your brain. That's it for today's video. If this helped you, drop a sub. It motivates me to keep making these for you. Catch you in the next one.